Hey everyone, we're live, pal. First show of 2024. And oh, what a doozy, Andrew Zarian. At
Oh,
what
what a
point
doozy.
at what point did you realize that Rock was going to show up on Raw last night?
I'm going to tell you, I was very disconnected with all of wrestling yesterday because it was my kid's birthday, my daughter's birthday yesterday. So I wasn't really following it. And then I think it was like 7 o'clock. I looked on Twitter and I saw like people like, oh, a former world champion is going to show up. And then somebody posted a photo of Dwayne and Nick Khan
At the Rose
at
Bowl.
where were at the Rose
Yeah, at
Bowl.
the Rose
Yeah. So I
Bowl.
was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, maybe he's showing up, and then he did.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to just follow that. And WWE treated that day one Raw show like a big show, like it should have, because this is really their kickoff to WrestleMania season, and the Royal Rumble is later this month. So, really, just action packed and newsworthy episode. So why don't we just start there?
Yeah, let's do
Uh,
it.
the Rock, he declares that he sits at the head of the table, and does that to you mean that that is now the main event at WrestleMania, or are we still not exactly sure what's going on?
So do you do this at Rumble? I can't see them doing it at Rumble because you already have so much happening there, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
firsts. It's CM Punk is going to be in the Rumble. That's going to solidify what's going on there. Roman already. I think who was Roman facing at the Rumble? I think
It's
it's
either going
Orton,
to
right?
be Orton or AJ. I don't think LA Knight is in that match, so I think it's Orton or AJ, or maybe LA Knight is still in
Or
that match. Well, we'll see on Friday because that's
yeah,
when they're
we'll
going to
see.
do the match.
Yeah, I saw that there was speculation whether or not it would happen in Australia. I know that John Alba was talking about that and saying, it kind of makes sense. Um, I mean, you would have to do it at WrestleMania. What a great night two match.
Okay, so if that is the match, then obviously the Cody story is going to possibly have to go on another year, and that's what I think. That's what people, the wrestling WWE's audience is pretty interesting right now. I feel like in a previous era, just the fact that The Rock is even involved in something like this is kind of like a big deal. And it would have been a bigger deal probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. But I think the audience now is very happy with the product and they want to see this Cody storyline. Do you sense that this Rock thing, this head of the table thing, could backfire with the current audience in any way?
I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. New York sports radio, that's all every station was talking about.
Wow.
The amount of messages that I've received from people that are really not the biggest wrestling fans anymore. They're maybe previous wrestling fans, whatever, years gone by wrestling fans. That's all people were talking about. So I think they're doing something positive. I mean, listen, you're not the WWE of today is not the same WWE that followed the tradition of you don't take the main event world title spot away from a full timer and you give it to a part timer. That's all out the window. This is what can we do to generate the most possible revenue? And Dwayne is one of those guys that moves the needle like that. And think about the moves that they made the last couple of months. They brought CM Punk back, a guy that was never say never in wrestling, but the guy that was as close to never as possible. They brought him back. Now Dwayne is back. They're building up this really top heavy WrestleMania. If that's short term planning, then it's WrestleMania. Long term planning, it's the longevity of what you could do to SummerSlam and next year. I'm very interested by this. This is very fascinating to me on the business side, on
The business
how it's
side,
shifting.
absolutely.
Yeah, how it's shifting. Now, as far as Cody's story goes, he should have won that title at WrestleMania, but they have a story they're telling that Roman is the most dominant world champion of any modern era from '84 on. He's probably not passing Hogan's record. I would be shocked if he is, even though some people said that I reported that a year ago. Um, but he pass Bruno's second record yet or no?
What? Yeah. What was the 1,000 days
No, no,
I don't
the
remember what
1,000.
it was.
No, I think Bruno's is like 1,200 and something. It's like 1,280 days. That second Bruno record.
No, then I don't think
Someone,
he's past that yet.
I'm sure someone in the chat room or
Wikipedia has the. If you just look for the world title reigns on Wikipedia, they have all that stuff. Okay, so here's another question. Well, actually, this is not really a question, but it's kind of a funny aside. Is you remember at WrestleMania 28 when Rock came back to face John Cena? Who was maybe the one that got kicked aside a little bit in that whole thing, because this Rock and John Cena story was really like a 2-year storyline? It was none other than CM Punk, who didn't seem too happy that he had to kind of step aside for an old timer from Hollywood to come back. And now CM Punk is back, and I guess so is The Rock. That's the thing that's funny to me. Okay, but here's another thing that I wanted to ask you about. I didn't even text this to you yesterday. I don't think, at least. I texted some other people, including our own Big Dave Meltzer, because I like to. If I have a thought, Big Dave will let me know if it's kind of like a stupid thought or not. Not in those words, but he'll sort of give me an answer that will lead me to believe if I'm like sniffing in the wrong area. Okay, so last night when The Rock did the head of the table thing, my initial thought was, oh, wow, WrestleMania is now changed and it's going to be, probably bigger and crazier than ever. But my second immediate thought was this them also speaking to Warner Brothers Media as to say, look at the kind of events we could do. We simply called this show Day One, and look at the phone calls we can make. And who can we bring on to this show? None other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So not only will you get, if you bid for Raw, not only will you now get CM Punk and Seth Rollins and the other great talent that they have, but we can also market these events, which is normally just another Raw. It just so happens to be on January the 1st, but we're going to market this as Day One, and it's all of a sudden more important than a normal Raw because of the marketing, because of how early we reached out to our fan base to tell them that this was going to be a special show. We got Triple H confirming a Sean Ross Sapp tweet about a former world champion showing up, and Triple H retweeted Sean, I believe, and Sean didn't say who it was. He just said, I've confirmed that WWE is going to have a world champion show up on Monday. And you also have the ability to just tap into your fan base. Look, I mean, you see how many people were at that show. You saw how many people were at the house shows this weekend. You were at one of those house shows this weekend.
Yeah, I was.
They just made that event kind of bigger than life. And to me, this was like saying, hey, WBD or whomever is also in the bidding, look what we can do. We at the snap of our fingers, we can build giant events like this and be, like Andrew Zarian just said, on caller-driven radio. People are talking about us because of this again. What do you think about that aspect of this as the marketing guy, as the business guy? Like, to me, that's maybe even the bigger story than WrestleMania.
Yeah, I definitely think the TV rights thing, this is playing a big part to it, right? And it's also, you want, for USA also, think about it this way. They agreed to these terms. You kind of want to show your partners, look at what we're going to do, right? Look at everything we're doing is planning for bigger and bigger and bigger. Whether or not it was a direct thing towards WBD, I don't know. I'm still, this is based my personal opinion. Okay, because I know a lot of opinions are being mixed up here on social media. My personal opinion is that AEW stays with WBD. Now, that's based on a few indicators that I have, right? Those are my, and I don't just base my opinion from the air.
Look, if I was to bet
things that I've heard.
If I was to bet money,
if you were to bet money, that's a smart pick.
I would probably lean to what you're saying.
Yeah. However, anything could change. It's television. It's TV negotiations. This is not rumors of debuts or booking or backstage politics. This is very tight-lipped negotiations that have to happen. These guys are not generally, I'm saying, obviously I have sources within WBD. I have people, I know people in NBC, way more than Fox, but, it takes a while for things to trickle down. So whatever happened over the last couple of weeks, there's a number of reasons why we're not hearing anything. One, everybody's on vacation. All these guys leave at the end of the year. This is very common. A lot of people don't come back till midweek this week or next week. So I have a feeling, honestly, the next 2 weeks, we're going to hear a little bit more about what's going on with WBD and AEW and negotiation. That's how I feel. Again, my opinion based on how things work. Also, yes, I definitely think this is them kind of peacocking a little bit, for lack of a better term, right?
Puffing out their chest.
To anybody that is a potential bidder for media rights for WWE. $400 million is a lot of money to ask, whether or not that's the number. That's a rumored number. But is it a lot to ask when, you're kind of saying, like, listen, Dwayne could show up here, and maybe there's other relationships, maybe he wants to do a TV show and we could kind of package something. I'm just throwing out some ideas. The other thing here, right, is revenue. You answer to your stockholders. When I saw the story that, Nick Khan wants to stick it to Tony and he's going to take away his TV deal and maybe take less money, right, to hurt that's not really positive long-term thinking. The investors do not give a crap about AEW. They don't care that there's competition. They most likely enjoy that there's competition because it keeps the product fresh and on its toes. If you look at the WWE trajectory from the time that AEW did not exist to the point that they did exist, they have made changes that have been directly affected that have directly affected their TV product in a positive way. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you do have this faraway number two that has some budget to kind of mess with your TV a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
However, on the WWE side, they don't think that way. They think about the investors. They think about their stock price. They think about revenue earned. And the reality is, you bring The Rock in, right? What's the T-shirt company that they work with now? Fanatics, right?
Fanatics is the apparel, all that stuff.
You brought CM Punk. That's now going to add to revenue. You're bringing in Dwayne for the WrestleMania season. That's going to add more. You already have Roman that's coming back to TV. I'm sure Brock will come back to TV. Cody is still number one in merch sales or whatever, number two. You have the Bloodline merch. You have all these things tracking positively for you. This is all positive indicators directly affecting the investors.
Yeah.
This is how they think. This is how major publicly traded companies think. Their philosophy is very different than, I'm going to book this guy to become world champion. They don't care at all about it. So, bringing in The Rock, yeah. And you know what? If you told me McGregor is going to show up, I'll believe you. If you tell me this is what it is, it's about getting that byline on all these websites. This is what it really comes to. They are a media juggernaut. They are not in the world of professional wrestling anymore. What they do resembles wrestling, but it's not.
It's marketing.
It's
marketing, yeah.
Yeah, they're a machine. I think this is positive for them. I mean, Dwayne come back. Now, how does this affect Cody? It is crappy if the plan was and the promise was that, what is the Game of Thrones line? The prince that was promised, right? He's Azor Ahai now. Are you a Game of Thrones fan? I don't know.
No,
I went down a Game of Thrones rabbit hole. He is Azor Ahai. He is the prince that was promised this title. What if the bigger question is, listen, you're not going to win. You're not beating Roman. Again, I don't know the match at WrestleMania, right? But what if it's like, listen, obviously there's Roman, but wouldn't you want to beat Dwayne?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the guy to take the title off of? It could be that. And that's a huge moment for Cody and his career if they do that, or they take the title off of Roman beforehand. Now, Roman is a couple days shy from beating Bruno's record. Bruno's second reign record was 12:37. 1,237 days. Roman is at 1,219 days. So there's 16 days left. He's going to
He's
pass
beating
that record.
He's beating that one.
He's beating
What's
that
after
record.
that one?
Hogan at
At
1,400 days.
Ooh.
1492. He sailed the ocean blue. I don't know. It's like 14 something. It's like, what is it? 1437? I have my producers, my fact checkers sending this to me. Do you do another 200 days of Roman as the guy? Maybe. I mean,
it's only possible. It's only 2 matches. 200 days,
or
2 matches.
And to be honest, yeah, I mean that's only 2 matches. Or he beats him, and he beats his cousin, and he does sit at the head of the table.
Yeah.
Does that help Cody at SummerSlam? If I don't know if it's 200 days. Does that add up to 200 days from Mania to SummerSlam? I don't know.
No, it's from April to August.
1474.
It's probably like 100. It's probably like 120 days or something.
120 days. Okay, so he comes short there, but well, maybe no. Maybe he'll have the right. I don't know. I got to do the math. Somebody do the math. Somebody.
Okay, here's another question I have for you. Do you think we have a WrestleMania problem where the only things, if you want to make it bigger than life, the only place to do that is WrestleMania, which happens once a year? And the reason why I mention that is because Dave posted in the latest issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the West Australian, a newspaper out of the Perth area, got some information from the Freedom of Information Act, since the Elimination Chamber show on February 24th is being promoted by the government's tourism board, and noted that the board asked WWE if it was possible to get Dwayne Johnson for the show. He also wrote they never said WWE agreed to it. And then he mentioned some of the stuff that The Rock was doing to kind of tease that he was going to be back in WWE. Okay, so my question is, and I was reading some of John Alba's tweets, friend of the show, John Alba, from last night and this morning. And John Alba is a very, very smart at this stuff. And he was saying how they should do Rock and Roman at Elimination Chamber in Australia to make that show, almost like sort of a mini WrestleMania. And I very much understand what he's saying. But the problem is that does The Rock even see anything other than WrestleMania as big of a deal? You remember when he came back to do that John Cena run, they did a match with John Cena and Rock against and the reason I remembered this because Miz and R-Truth were in that match, and then they teamed last night. And they did at Survivor Series at Madison Square Garden, and that did a very poor buy rate based on the expectation. Now the business is way different today. Like we're talking we're talking Gate, we're talking Peacock, and all that stuff. So I'm not saying that they couldn't do it if they wanted to do it in Australia, but it just seems that everything is so much geared towards WrestleMania that I would almost scoff at the idea of Rock wrestling at the Elimination Chamber in Australia.
Is that a paid show? That's a paid show, correct?
I would assume so, because it seems like that's all they're doing these days, right?
Yeah. So I listen. I love John. Show. Okay. I know him so well personally. We're friends. I don't agree with him that should be the match at WrestleMania, at Elimination Chamber. That's a bought and paid show. Now, whether or not Dwayne shows up, that makes sense. He could show up in Australia and have some awesome moment in the ring. This is a WrestleMania match. If you are coming back to do this send off, maybe for your career, and you have this opportunity to do something tremendous for your cousin and for the bloodline of your family. Again, no pun intended. The lineage of that amazing pro wrestling family. You want to do it at WrestleMania, and you could sell some more tickets for WrestleMania, and it would make a difference revenue wise. I don't see them doing it at Elimination Chamber. I can see Roman losing at Elimination Chamber if that's a possibility, depending on how they want to do this. But, you got to look at the big picture here. And the big picture is always green. Is the match Cody versus Roman the bigger financial gain for you, or is it Dwayne and Roman? It's Dwayne and Roman.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate
I
because
mean, they've been trying to make this match for how many years now?
I first reported it in 2021. That was the match that I was told was happening. And then they wanted to wait, right? Because they were right out of the pandemic. Was it 2021? I gotta see because I had messaged Dave, I think, about this. It was gonna happen last year.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to numerous people, and I was told that it was in the plans. And then in December, it pulled back. You know, they had already incorporated The Rock with that. Remember that movie with the egg?
Yeah, Red
Right,
State,
like
or
around
whatever
that
that movie's
time, that
called.
was the movie with the egg. I have no idea what the hell it was. That was I was originally told that he was going to be on that show, or they were involving him in some way. That didn't happen, and then he didn't wrestle.
The anniversary of his debut at Madison Square Garden, right? That was supposed to be the show.
That was,
It was like a Survivor
was it the
Series
Garden or
show.
was yeah.
Oh no,
yeah.
it was in Brooklyn.
So,
You're right. It was in Brooklyn.
it was
But
Brooklyn.
it was
Yeah,
the
I don't go to that
20th.
building.
It was like the 25th anniversary of The Rock's debut in New York or whatever.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I mean,
that building
listen,
sucks, by the way. It does.
Thank
It's
you.
not good.
You know what? Thank you. Thank you. I was at the Garden on Tuesday. I gotta say, my kids are, I had a great childhood. The way that I would go to these shows. I'll just tell this really quickly. My uncle just passed away, and he was instrumental in my wrestling fanaticism, I guess. My father, my uncle would take us to the Garden, or mostly a lot in the Coliseum. And my uncle had this like vest he would put on. Okay? And he would tell my father to wait in the car or wherever he was waiting, and he would bang on one of the side doors. And he would say, like, listen, I got a big problem. I got to go. I'm leaving. I'm finishing work. These kids are here. Their parents dropped them off. He forgot to take the freaking tickets from the parents, and they don't know where they are. They're not going to be able to call them back home. This is before cell phones, right? He goes, can you just bring them in? They said it was close to front row. And they'd be like, ooh. And he'd be like, listen, what's your name? And the guy's like, let's say Billy. He's like, Billy, listen, Tom, do you know Tom or whatever? John. He's like, no. He goes, you know John? He goes, no. You go, you have to know Mark. And finally, he throws a name. The guy's like, yeah, I know Mark. He goes, listen, Mark is going to be effing fuming if I leave these kids out here. I got to go. They're going in. And he would just run off and leave us with this guy. And the guy's like, okay, I guess we're going to take you inside. And we would get seats, front row. Next thing we know, 45 minutes later, he's walking up to our seats.
That's awesome.
This was, it tells you everything you need to know about my con artist family.
Yeah.
But, my kids went to that Garden show. Very different experience. They did the VIP experience. They got to meet Dominic, or as my son called him, Domino Mysterio. And Rhea looked at him. Deuce and Domino. My son calls him Domino, and Rhea's like, Daddy Domino, I like that. They have this, I don't make money doing this, but it allows me to provide them these really cool moments, which makes me really happy.
By the way, I saw a photo of Rhea and Dom, and I thought, I was like, are the kids in this photo? There was a bearded man with poofy hair, right? And I was like, oh, it's you with Rhea and
Billy
and Dom.
Billy, the guy that kind of like runs this stuff, he's like, Andrew, you got to take a picture with them. You got to take, and then he does the whole like, oh, do you know Andrew Zarian, Mattman Podcast, Wrestling Observer? And then like it like shocks them, and I think it like shocks them to like take the photo. It like stuns them a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I'll take the photo, whatever. It was cool, and I had a blast. It was a great time. But what a tremendous building that is.
That place,
the Garden compared to Brooklyn. Dude, over 15,000 people. I mean, I can't remember the last time I was in that building for wrestling. Tremendous. And they put on a great show. All families, all kids, and that, again, you want to talk about business? That's the future of their business. It was families of 6, families of 4. All the kids are there. That's what you want to see in these crowds for WWE. They don't give a crap about me. I'm 40 years old. I'm outdated to them. They want my kids.
Yeah.
That's really how they think. AEW, very different model. That crowd had barely any kids in on Saturday. at the
You're talking about
Coliseum.
World's End because you were also at
World's End. Because
Okay, how does that? How did that building hold up after all these years?
Dude, it's a brand new building.
Oh,
They renovated that building a couple years ago. It's smaller. It's only, I think, total, right? And without staging, I think it's like only like 12,900 or like close to 13,000. It's under 13, I think. But it was a great building for them because it was packed. It was 10,000, I think 10,057 in the building in seats. I don't know if that's I guess that's distributed, right, with the comps and whatever. But the building was great. Fantastic building. I was shocked because I remember what a dump that place was.
we'll put a bow on the Rock thing here in a second, but I just want to make clear I was not disagreeing with what John said necessarily. I was just saying how, John's a smart dude, and he was thinking of it for the same reason that you were, which is how do you increase revenue and all that such. So I thought it was an interesting idea, but so that's why I brought it up, not to dismiss the idea in any way.
He could be. I don't think I don't think it's a terrible idea. I just don't. If I'm doing it, I'm doing Mania.
Yeah, no, me too. That's where my brain goes.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the last thing on this one is the rest of the Raw show. Did you watch the whole thing? What did you think of day one? I thought it was a pretty good show.
I watched the whole thing. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. It was a fun show. First show without Kevin Dunn, right? That was a big part of this also.
Yeah.
There was some changes on the presentation. I like that Michael Cole was in the ring when they started. Michael Cole and Wade were in the ring doing the rundown of the matches. They made it feel a little different, which was great. I thought it was one of the more fun Raws that I've watched. But again, I watched it very differently. It was my daughter's birthday. Everybody was a little loose when that show came on.
Yeah.
So we were all enjoying it a little bit more. I thought it was fine. I thought the main event was fine. I thought the Rock segment was it was a Rock promo.
It was like Rock had like a fever dream. He was like transported back to 1991, and he was Hulk Hogan. He's about to face Sergeant Slaughter at WrestleMania, and all of a sudden he just I don't know. I didn't like the promo at all, but of course the man's delivery is tremendous.
You know what it felt like to me? If there was ever a moment that Dwayne was running for president, right? And we want, this is America. This is the promo that they're going to play when he finally runs for president.
So he has Jinder Mahal come out on stage with him, and they do
from 30 years ago. Yeah, he's running a promo from 30 years ago. The foreign menace is in the ring, and here comes Mr. America, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, to talk about how great the country is. There was a USA chant.
I know.
I haven't heard one. I haven't heard a USA chant happen in a very, very long time. Listen, I take the politics out of this, right? It's wrestling. It's forget about the politics, forget about all that. But you look at it and you're like, I didn't know Dwayne was so patriotic. Is this a new gimmick? Is he going to come out with the red, white, and blue trunks now?
Yeah. This is so weird. We don't hear that as much. Like when he started talking about the Star Spangled Banner, I was like, oh my gosh, where are we going? The national anthem? What is he doing here? But I don't think the majority of people really cared that much. I just was like, I can't believe we're doing this in 2024.
Yeah.
All right, let's move over to World's End. So AEW's big show to end 2023. We got the Devil unveil. It was Adam Cole, and it was Matt Taven, it was Bennett, it was Roderick Strong, it was Wardlow. So not too surprising based on some of the things that would have led us to believe who the Devil and his henchmen were going to be. But ultimately, since you were also there, what did you think of that show?
So, first, it was so awesome to see so many viewers of ours there. So many people came up and said, I love We're Live Pal, I love Matt Man, say hi to Garrett. It was really nice. It was I was sitting with JJ and Corey, my seats.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I was with the Observer guys, which was nice. I had a lot of fun watching the show. Okay. Do I think it was one of their best pay-per-views? No, but it was a fun show. I just watched the show this morning, a couple days out, just to see what the TV looked like. I enjoyed it better live. So my experience and my opinion is a little bit different. I thought it was a fun show. The building was packed. Everybody there was having fun. It's the end of the year. A couple things. The reaction to things in the building were far louder than what was presented on TV. Swerve got a tremendous reaction when he came out. So did a lot of other people. MJF had a huge reaction when he came out. The finish, nobody in the building thought that was the ending. It just came out of nowhere. I think that didn't execute well. And people were visibly annoyed by the devil reveal. Now, you and I had spoken about this. I'll tell you something off the air about what I was told.
Okay.
But they went with the one that made sense. I have not been a fan of the Adam Cole MJF stuff at all. It's not speaking to me. So my opinion is that I don't like it. That's whether or not you enjoy it. That's up to you. I hope they turn it around and they make it into something very different. But I thought it was a fine show. There was no problems. The only problem was I went to the scrum. I don't know if you knew this.
Oh, dear God.
Okay. I went to the scrum. I didn't ask any questions. And I'm glad I didn't. My issue was that scrum ended at like 12:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's half worked, half kayfabe. It's like this kayfabe vortex you're in where like you're kind of in character, you're kind of out. I didn't feel comfortable asking anything if it's presented that way. I've watched it a bunch, like I've seen them all. I just never attended one, and I didn't know that it was like that. Did you? Was this a little bit more work than previous?
So I don't watch them, and I didn't watch this one either. And this goes back to you and I were there in Vegas a couple years ago. You had to leave early.
I had to leave early that trip, yeah.
And there was the runaround with MJF leaving that one convention, and then there was scuttlebutt around him being frustrated, and then he and Wardlow open that show, and he loses, and then there's the airplane story and everything. And the first person, it may have even been Dave, I don't remember, said, Tony, what can you tell us about MJF? And he said no comment. I was like, I'm done. Yeah. That no more press conferences for me. This is too stupid to deal with.
I'm very grateful I was invited to it, and I'll go to it again. I just didn't have an opening to ask a question throughout that scrum. And it was very late.
Wasn't Tony Storm in character doing shtick at the press conference?
Well, yeah, they were both doing shtick at that moment, and then unfortunately, Tony got asked a very serious question wearing that hat and glasses.
Okay, wait a second. Tell me how this works. Yeah. When Tony Storm was live and in person, your eyeballs didn't go black and white, did they?
Oh no, that's literally what happens. They give you a little pill before you enter the room, and then they just activate you when Tony Storm walks in, and everything is in black and white. It's unbelievable. No, they had this fun back and forth, and Tony put on the hat and glasses, and I honestly, I think because of the adrenaline and the fun of that show, because it was a success, and he should be happy. I think he kind of forgot that he was wearing it.
Yeah.
And again, I don't, people took it as like, well, it was disrespectful. He addressed something serious. I honestly, I think he was just caught up in the moment, and he was wearing it, and he didn't realize until someone was like, hey, Tony, you want me to take that? Like one of the guys that works in the company. He's like, oh, yeah. And he took it off like he had forgotten. A lot of people message like, how come you didn't ask a question? You were there. And my response is, I already know the answer to the question I'm going to ask that I'm getting a non-answer to.
Right.
I'm not going to get the answer to any of the questions that I need to ask them. I'm not getting, I would have asked them, what's your outlook on 2024 as a revenue goes? I knew that I'm not getting because it was everything is great. And that's his
Yes.
job, He has to
Yes.
say everything is great. He's not going to say everything is terrible. Um, and there's another person wrote to me. He's like, "Well, you finally got access to Tony. I could message Tony at any point.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to get an answer, and I'm not going to ask him something that I know he doesn't want to answer. That's not my job. I don't do that. There's so many other people that are far more qualified than me in that room, which we saw. There were people that asked some really good questions.
Mm-hmm.
And the one question I was going to ask him was about the pay-per-view schedule, and I got an answer because Kate from Fightful asked him a question about pay-per-views, and he said that they're looking to, they're going to continue doing what they're doing. So that's the answer right there. You're going to get 11 pay-per-views or 12 pay-per-views a year, including Ring of Honor. So I didn't feel comfortable. I if you're going to do a work thing, then do a work thing. If it's like a work shoot thing, that it's, I don't know what answer I'm going to get. It kind of threw me off. I didn't expect that. I thought it was more serious. In terms of like, okay, we're asked, the journalists are going to ask a question, but WWE does the same thing too, right?
Well,
Those are all...
one of the press conferences, I think it was the All Out one. Jericho went into character and swung the bat and hit a water bottle and hit my friend right in the face with the water bottle. Like,
Yeah,
it's the wild west in there. And I'm probably coming off as a little bit more holier than thou when it comes to that. But like, I don't want to. I feel like if I'm going to attend that press conference and ask a question, I'm sort of part of the act, and I don't want to be part of the act. It's not like you get paid.
Same thing. Yeah,
it's not like you get paid to go up there and be part of the shtick and have Christian talk shit about you and stuff, right? So I just opt out of that. Like, that's not anything that I want to be a part of. But it's not like I haven't been part of MMA press conferences where, Nick Diaz walks in the room and you have half of the people behind you standing up and applauding. And I'm just going like, what the hell is going on here? This is supposed to be impartial media, not fans. But, the media is also different. We have a lot of content creators who are doing really good things with, with this stuff. So I understand it. It's not like it used to be, or maybe it's not like how the NBA would run their press conference. So I totally get it, but it's just not what I want to be a part of.
Yeah, listen, I was very grateful, and it, to be there, and I would love to be there again. I'd love to do it again. It was 2:00 in the freaking morning.
Yeah.
It was very late, and I think there was a lot of negativity that was looming before the show happened. And I think it was just, everything was a little off. I think everybody in the room was a little tense, to be honest.
Yes. And understandable as to why.
And by the way, the question was asked and we got a non-answer each time. It was asked 3 times.
Yep.
So
as I would have expected, based on how Tony does this, I would have expected that. Okay, so back to the show and sort of the storylines as we head out and into 2024. One thing I find very interesting is your top story now is MJF against Adam Cole.
Yeah.
However, both of these men are hurt. And it looks like MJF's going to take time off because he's got this shoulder injury. I know he's, probably emotionally drained being the champ for so long and the ups and downs of that. And, he's a young dude, so he's like reading Twitter and stuff and he, all of that. And I can't, how can that be your biggest story for 2024 if he's taking time off? And so what is it going to be that Adam Cole and the Devil and the Henchmen, they have to fight off all the baby faces until he comes back? Like, I don't understand. And hopefully we'll find out something Wednesday. I just don't understand where we're going with this and why you pulled the trigger now if MJF is taking time off.
Well, how far away is Adam Cole from returning?
Who knows? I thought he was going to pop up and pull that boot off and moonwalk out of that ring.
No,
that's what I was hoping for.
He sat.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So I don't know. I told you I was not a fan of that story from the beginning. I don't know. Could it have worked? I'm sure. When they put this on paper, it made far more sense. And I'm sure a lot of things had not happened already, like all the injuries that have happened. Maybe they were going in a different direction. I don't love it. You know, I would honestly, if this is the direction that they're headed, and Max needs time off, and I would not have. I mean, you know what? You had to do it. You had no chance. You had no choice. They started the program before. They had to finish this story. But to me, the biggest story is Swerve and him possibly becoming world champion soon.
I'm so glad you went to Swerve, because if there was anything I was frustrated about on this show, it was the Swerve and Dustin Rhodes match. And before people get upset about like, oh, it was a good match, I know it was going to be a good match. And I know that Dustin Rhodes is a really good worker even at his age. Like he's great. He's great. I love Dustin Rhodes. I was there from the beginning. I love the natural Dustin Rhodes. So I'm a big fan of his. However, if Swerve is your hottest act, and I am looking at this, like if I pull back and I look at who's working on AEW TV right now, the top act to me, the act that is working the best, the hottest, is Swerve Strickland. So you set up this match with Keith Lee. It doesn't happen. Yeah. And the replacement is connected to the story slightly. You kind of can put it together. But I was like, man, they have so many people not on this show who are so higher on the food chain than Dustin Rhodes is in 2023. They did not pick any of those folks. And then I said, okay, well, you have Dustin Rhodes. This should be a glorified squash match with your hottest wrestler just beating the crap out of this sympathetic old veteran. And so they do this match, and they start it with the cinder block. I'm not a fan of the cinder block thing. It's getting kind of silly to me. But, they create this opportunity for him to blow out Dustin's ankle. And in my vision, I was like, okay, they're going to help.
This is how they get him out.
They're going to stretcher out Dustin, and Swerve is just going to keep kicking his butt. He's not going to let him get stretchered out. He's not going to let him get wheeled out. He's just going to be the most evil, and the crowd is going to pop. And it's fine. I'm good. This is a good usage of 10 minutes. This Dustin Rhodes comes back and wrestles a competitive match on a jacked up ankle against your hottest star. I was so frustrated watching that, because it was like, man, you had this layup. The Keith Lee injury, unfortunate for Keith. I never want to see anybody hurt, and Keith has had such a rough time. But you have this layup, and you have Dustin, who's not even on TV. He's the trainer. You don't even get to really see him. So it's not like the fans will be disappointed if Dustin gets his butt kicked, really, because he's not a part of the current television. And they just did what I knew that they were going to do, which is, we need to have a good wrestling match. And I was like, man, that is the antithesis of what you needed to do right here.
Or what they could have done. You want to have a good wrestling match, have Dustin get stretchered out and have somebody come in his honor and fight, right?
Sure.
Honestly, this is again, is my opinion. But again, I base it on reality. I think a lot of it had to do with, like, when's the next time Dustin's going to be in that building and wrestle? When is the next time Dustin's going to be on pay-per-view? He's winding down. He's very highly respected there. And probably Swerve didn't want to do that. And he's like, you know what? I'll have this match with Dustin, one of the, greatest of the era that he came up in. He's a fantastic wrestler, very respected. I think it was more emotion that got involved with that decision than anything else. If I were to do it, and I think a lot of people agree with me, including you, do the stretcher job and maybe bring somebody else out that maybe has some sort of relationship. A lot of people thought Hangman was coming out when they did that stretcher. A lot of people were starting to look at the ramp to see who's coming out and what they're doing. They had a competitive match, and
Hangman was like, yeah, I'm not going to get beat again, man.
I will say, if I'm going to read between the lines, in that scrum, right, you could tell that Swerve was annoyed that Keith wasn't in the match.
Yeah.
I think it was, it wasn't a, I love Keith and I want him to, I can't wait to do it with him. A lot of times that's the promo that, whatever, work or shoot, whatever. That's what you say. That's a political answer. You didn't get that from him. It was, to me, it was like, we tried to fucking do this again, and it didn't happen again. Sorry. I'm not speaking for Swerve. I don't want to speak for Swerve.
Swerve did that in full Long Island accent and everything, huh?
Dude, yeah. Listen, I don't want to do that effing match, all right? And he all of a sudden turned into like a Long Island guy. I don't know what the hell happened.
You know
I'm
who
over
I
here
have
in I'm over here in Uniondale, and this guy doesn't show up. I don't know.
I do have to give a shout out though. Gosh, talk about two legends turning back the clock. Adam Copeland and Christian. What a damn match that was.
You know what? And you know what's so sad? Nobody's talking about it. Did it? So I haven't watched that match on TV. I watched it live. It was fantastic.
I thought it was the best match.
It was great. The finish was too many swerves, bro. Too many swerves.
Yeah.
Too many swerves.
Overbooked. The finish, the end of the match
very
was
overbooked.
And I think that's probably why you're not hearing a lot of people talk about the actual match, is because they're talking about what happened after.
Yeah, I thought the ending was. You could have just had him have that moment and take that title off of him soon. You know, you could have worked your way back into that, whatever they were going to work their way back into it, and done something different and something interesting. They went with a very pro wrestling 1999 ending. Which, you know what? Isn't that suitable for the people that were in that match?
Yeah.
You got the finish from that era.
The people who were in that match were probably totally fine with how that match ended.
Yeah.
But okay, so I sensed, I don't know, I may have talked about it here, but I don't know why, but the build to this match, for whatever reason, I thought I thought Adam Copeland was going for the fire table to call back to the Mick Foley match at WrestleMania, where the hardcore match that made Adam Copeland to show that he was tough. And I don't remember why I thought that, but as this match is going, he comes out in the same vest, I think. They do the match and they pull out the table, but the fans seemed like they were expecting it too. Was there a buzz in the crowd about the fact that we're calling back to this old WrestleMania match with Edge and Mick Foley?
Yeah, I think when he came out in the vest, a lot of people started saying like, "Oh, that's like the vest he wore for the match." Somebody tipped me off to that fire spot at one point, so I was waiting for it throughout the match.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really good. I thought the whole thing, the layout of that entire match was really good, except until what you were saying, which is the overbooked thing to get the belt back on Christian. All right, so we have a lot of stuff coming up for the rest of this week. We have AEW Dynamite, first Dynamite of the year. There is a heavy expectation that Mercedes Moné is going to be on this show. What have you heard about that?
Exactly what you have heard. I think it's very possible. Listen, now there was a report that came out that said it was for $25 million for 5 years.
What?
I can tell you that is not. Well, that's $5 million a year, right? I can tell you that is not.
That would make her the highest paid person in that company. Right?
Most likely, yeah. Most likely. So I don't believe that is a reality. I think a lot of that is based on the report that she wanted Charlotte Flair money, because Charlotte's the highest paid female on the WWE roster. Whatever she got, good for her. Whether it's $4 million or $3 million or whatever they're giving her, good for her. It's setting a precedence. It's setting a tone as far as, this is what your highest pay,
Absolutely.
your top tier female talent should be getting paid. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. But I think it's exciting with her going there. Will it affect ratings? We'll see. We'll see what Mercedes Moné means versus Sasha Banks. But now, there was the tease in the scrum, though. There was that tease.
Yeah, he talked about women's wrestling and stuff.
He talked heavily that he has his eye on a couple free agents, and those free agents you can put it to Deonna Purrazzo. I mean, I discovered her way before she was ever on TV somehow, and I always liked her. I always thought that there was a tremendous upside with her. She's one. Julia's another one, right? That people are talking about.
Dave and I
And so,
interviewed Deanna a few years ago. I thought she was really nice. I thought she was really well spoken, came across really well. And then I actually shared an elevator with her. Would have been All Out a couple years ago. Super nice, just really nice,
yeah,
pleasant person. So yeah, rooting for her.
yeah,
And yeah, so I mean, would you and like you want to get that rating right for Wednesday? You want to start off the show hot, or maybe save it for the end and keep the audience? But I mean, if she's going to be on the show, you got a day. Yeah, they haven't said anything. You
yeah.
know, I guess the surprise is interesting for them, but we haven't even seen the Tony Khan, tweet that Tony Khan has a special announcement or whatever for Dynamite. At least I don't think we've seen that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. But that could just be me not being in the mix. Listen, she's a northeastern, she's from New Jersey, I know she trained here locally. Just I'm talking about Deanna. Sorry, my brain is still on Deanna Purrazzo. I'm trying to figure out if she makes sense to debut. I don't think she's showing up tomorrow. I think if they are doing something big, it's gonna be Mercedes.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
Got it. And then also we have Wrestle Kingdom on a few hours after Dynamite's over. I will be at Big Dave's house to do the all nighter to do
But will
the.
he be there? Will he be
Yes,
there?
he will be there. This time he will be there
Does
because
Dave put on
for
his
World's
jammies and he watches?
for World's End, he did not show up to his own World's End party. By the way,
Yes. You know what? That is the best. That is the best. Can I tell you something? Can I talk
What?
about this on the air really
Yes,
quickly? The story,
yes,
what happened last week
yes,
with Dave calling me?
yes.
Okay. No disrespect to Dave, because this made the end of the year ended on a high note. We were all talking about, I forgot what it was, right? We were speculating on something. And I
Mm-hmm.
texted Dave, "Hey, is there anything you'd like me to ask in the scrum?" And now, whatever. I all of a sudden it's like 45 minutes later and I'm having a drink and Dave called me and I missed the call, but he did leave a voice message.
What was the voice
The
message?
It is a 2-minute 30-second voice message of him typing. I will cherish that. I will cherish that voice message till the day I die.
Oh, I've received a voicemail like that before. The best one, though. Okay, here's the best one. I don't know if I've told this story on this show before, but if Dave is at a show and he needs to take notes for said show, he doesn't open up. You know what you and I would do is we'd go into our phone and we'd open up the little notepad app
Yeah.
and we'd start typing stuff there. No. Instead, what he does is he starts texting me. And I would
The
the
notes.
first time this ever happened, I was so confused. I thought he was like telling me what was happening on the show. But it's like, nope, speedball, kick, finish 10:37. And I'm just like, what is this chicken scratch? Like,
Is it
does
like a
he know
distress? Is he in distress?
he is because he doesn't use his notes app? The text
Yeah.
to me was a way to keep track of his notes on his phone.
Smart. Yeah,
So
because
I
you'll
just had
remind
to,
him
I
too.
had to silence the the text there for about 5 hours.
That's great.
So yeah, but yeah, I showed up. We showed up to watch World's End at Dave's house, and I texted him. I was like, "Hey, where are you at?" He's like, "Oh, I'm in, at the beach house." And I was like, "Wait, the beach house is kind of far. Like, you're not coming here. What are we gonna do? We're in your living room, like turning on the TV." So I just ordered the pay-per-view from
He
his
skipped his
house.
own party, dude. He's like,
Yeah,
"This is lame. I'm going to the beach house."
so it's $50. He had to pay $50 twice. So we're going out to dinner on Saturday. So I'll buy his dinner or something to
Yeah.
make up for
That's
because
that.
we just showed up and we're like, "Where's Dave?" And he was like, "Nope, I'm not there. Have fun."
Dude, that's hysterical. That's hysterical.
All right, let's end the show with
Yes,
a
sir.
couple more WWE things. Triple H has some Peacock show on Thursday, which is like a preview show that he's announcing another surprise. He's going to make an announcement. Maybe he's like announcing Mercedes for AEW the day after. Like what could he possibly have? They just had like
Probably
the giant surprise. Is it
maybe
Andrade related?
Andrade. Yeah, maybe
Though
Andrade.
is Andrade going to be on NXT? Because I know Dragon Lee can't be on that show, so some assume that maybe Andrade is going to show up as a surprise.
Oh, that'd be on what date? Thursday?
No, well, Tuesdays tonight is the NXT
Yeah.
show, and Dragon
Yeah, yeah,
Lee
yeah.
was having visa issues, so he was
I
mentioning that
saw
he
that.
wasn't going to be there. So I was thinking maybe Andrade shows up in place of Dragon Lee as like a surprise for that show.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say maybe Andrade's announcement happens. A lot of people thought he would be on there, but I assumed that he'd be on SmackDown because that's where
Yeah,
Charlotte is.
that's where
But
Charlotte is.
Charlotte's hurt, so I don't know. I would imagine he's going to be on SmackDown. Um, yeah, I that Andrade run in AEW was so disappointing for me.
He got pushed at
Uh,
the end, all the way until the end, like he was a
I
top
know.
guy, and then he left the next day.
Yeah, Tony did a good job at building a WWE talent.
Yeah, I know.
Um, listen, I maybe it was a make good. Hey, sorry, we dropped the ball with you. You got a generational talent like Andrade. Forget about backstage stuff, but you got this tremendous talent that he did nothing. He did absolutely nothing
Except for fight people.
except fight people. But that's what everybody does there.
I mean, I liked the match with Miro though. I thought it still was a good match, but does that when are we going to see Miro again? Is that the once like he's just going to sit at
No, I
home for
think
3 months?
I always said put CJ and him together and have him do his whole gimmick again.
The old gimmick, the Rusev gimmick.
Yeah, the Rusev gimmick. Have him come out and crush. And you could have him beat random people, Serpentico every week, and he'll be happy.
All the people who Wardlow squashed, just run them through Miro this time.
Yeah, you run him through Miro. I absolutely I like Miro tremendously. I think he's so talented. I love those bonkers promos. That he's speaking in riddles, which is fun. I just want him to be doing something rather than disappear for the next 5 weeks. You have this guy, use him.
So there was just a story today, and we should just mention this as we go off air. Fightful's reporting that Naomi could be headed back to WWE, and
I saw that.
Some saying that sooner rather than later. So I don't know if that would be the surprise. Probably not for Thursday, but looks like that is in the works. And then I guess the last thing is Roman Reigns is probably gonna have something to say about Dwayne because he will be on SmackDown on Friday. New Year's Revolution is the theme to the SmackDown show. So we'll probably see something. All we saw so far was just a laughing face emoji on his Twitter so far.
Dude, I mean, it's a big program. That is a tremendous crossover program with the mainstream. And you don't get those opportunities to get the number one guy in Hollywood, the blockbuster Hollywood guy, to show up. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger having a match, Or Sly Stallone or Vin Diesel for the time. I mean, this is even bigger, obviously, because Rock has become a media icon, but you don't get these opportunities at all often. So you gotta capitalize, and they've tried. And every time I've asked, every time they've come close, the answer is always the same. If Dwayne wants to do it, we're gonna do it. If Dwayne wants, I mean, that's like verbatim the quote. If Dwayne wants to do something, we'll do something. The stars are aligning. It's happening. You don't get that opportunity too often. WWE is king of missed opportunities. Yeah. I don't think Hunter wants that. I don't think he wants to start his reign as, following in Vince's footsteps of missed opportunities.
Nick Khan, man. Nick Khan hanging out with The Rock at the Rose Bowl. They specifically, that was a very strategic picture. Though Nick Khan should have asked for a second take so he could have looked a little bit more menacing because he kind of looked.
I know, I know.
There.
He should have looked more like Palpatine, in the back with the cloak on.
Yes, exactly.
He's slowly aging as the day goes on.
Well, here is to more stories like this for us to talk about on this show in 2024, because when stuff is happening, this show's a lot more fun. We get to chat about business dealings and all the craziness that goes on. So happy New Year to everybody watching and listening. Happy New Year to you as well, Andrew. For Andrew, I am Double G. And also, don't forget about producer John.
John, our producer.
For Andrew, I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.